If you want to start out in VO, make sure you get your theatrical actor training from somebody you connect with. Learn as many of the different acting tools that there are out there. At least become acquainted with them, all of them, and experiment using them in voiceover. And don't forget improv. Improv has saved my life on a number of occasions. If you eat it on a line, you know how to handle it. If you're given something a little different, you know how to morph it, make it better. And it also takes away your fear of performance, any anxiety. It just sort of controls that, and you learn to be a more focused, better listening actor, which is critical for voiceover. Voiceover actors, I think, are stronger when they're actually doing more listening than talking. You can't just walk into an agent's booth because they don't exist anymore. Um, Very few voiceover castings happening. It's all happening from your home studio. The audition, you get no feedback. So you have to self direct, edit, record, no acoustics, no microphones. There's a big, big tech side to voiceover now that wasn't there 5, 10 years ago. They won't even entertain auditions where you're not set up with Source Connect. Source Connect is a little piece of software that will connect your microphone to the web to the other studio at the highest possible uninterruptible quality, excuse me. So when you have that and a studio is getting your feed, they're expecting you to sound as good as the recording room they have behind the glass, which means now you've got to have a what's called a low noise floor, an undistracted read. So no dogs in the background, no background noise, nothing, and no echoes, no reverbs, no pings, nothing. Just a clean, natural read that doesn't distract from a high quality mic, into a high quality file. So your bare minimum went from a couple hundred to probably close to $1,000. The software alone is over 1,000. And so, unfortunately, if you're going to play for real in this game, it got really expensive with COVID because you cannot go to a studio at the moment. And I think the trend of recording from home may continue longer past COVID as well. When you get to the pro levels, you're talking about $1,000 microphone, be it a Neumann, a Sennheiser, or an AKG, whatever it is, whatever fits your voice, an interface, the software, and the most expensive thing if you live in a noisy house is an isolation room. And those whisper rooms are good for treatment, meaning the sound doesn't bounce. They're not so great for isolation. You'll still hear your cat yelling from the other side of the wall. The best booth you can buy is probably Studio Bricks, and I don't have one. I've always wanted one, but I've never had the ceiling clearance for it. I had my booth built in my basement here in the best possible space, and I had a contractor do it, and it was a lot more expensive than anyone could imagine. But it's my final booth that I plan on building, and I cannot be interrupted, and that's what saves me. So the broom is more than paid for itself. All my jobs are audition based. So you get an audition and you have to serve what's on the page first, then look at the specs and then do your job. And the fastest way to get through that is what characters are already in your back pocket. They've just sort of come about over the years and years and years that I've done this. I took improv classes. They force you to develop characters. You book stuff, you find the character. You just sort of build this arsenal of characters. But the days of voiceover actors, you know, Phil Hartman they used to say he had 200 something different voices. All that's great, but the industry doesn't really work that way anymore. If they want a very specific voice, they're going to go find it and get it. It's nice to have a diversity, but it's not the driving force anymore. When I first arrived to LA, I was driving every day to my agent's voice booth. By the time I left, I had seen my voice agent's booth maybe twice a year. Like, that's how crazy it changed. But the negative side of that is you're not getting any feedback, you can't gauge a reaction, you're not getting anything back. And that's what most actors complain about, especially in voiceover, is I send this out, I get no feedback. No feedback is sort of neither good nor bad news. The best news is, oh, they're interested. You got a call back. That's a win in my book. And that's about the best you can do, other than hopefully your agent will review your materials, not charge you, but most good agents will check in with you and say, hey, your auditions are great. Don't worry. Hey, you should turn up the levels. Hey, maybe you need to pick up the energy. I've got one agent. He's not a fan of my subtle stuff. He's always like, give me more energy. I'm like, okay. So I know what to do with him. But you have to ask for it as an actor and try to get feedback. Even in like commercial VO, you can never guess what the person wants because there's 10 cooks behind the ad agency that are making a decision. It's impossible. When I actually have a system where I have an private email list, and it's voiceover actors, and we send each other our auditions for review. But there's very specific rules. Rule number 1 is never, ever, ever direct the talent. All you can do is say, "Oh, I got your audition. Here's what I heard. I heard A, 30 something female. She's a queen. She's bossing her minions around. Da, 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 da." That's it. That's the end of the review. Then the person gets the review back and says, "Is that what I was going for? Does that match my choices?" And then it's up to that actor to make the choices that are appropriate to the material. So I think actors could help each other, but so often you get billboard the client name more, do this, do that. No, that's directing. And commercial VO work is the king of, you're never gonna get that right ever, because they don't even know what they want. So that's kind of how I would like to see actors help each other more, is just, here's what I heard, here's what I felt, here's what I saw, here's what I experienced. Leave it at that. I had an agent tell me once that what he loved about me was I was his Swiss Army knife for voiceover. I get to work in a lot of different categories, and I could not be more grateful. I'm one of the, I think, few voiceover people that actually gets promo voiceover auditions, obviously commercial, narration, sometimes trailer, animation, games, and shows and live action shows and stuff. So I get a lot of variety of opportunities. It's a marathon. It's 10 marathons. They say acting is a marathon journey. Voiceover is even longer. Um, I was playing around with voiceover on the side while I was in marketing in 1997, 98. I was going to my agent's office there in Portland, um, walking around the corner from my job and doing auditions. Didn't land a thing for a full year. Then I landed a gig, then another one, then another one. Then I found a guy out in Bend that wanted to list me on his roster, and then found another agent, and just slowly, slowly, slowly built this thing. And it wasn't my primary, like, oh God, I have to make money. It was just like, I'm having fun on the side. So I was lucky enough to enjoy the journey and just sort of let it happen, and, you know, play when I needed to. And when I moved to LA in 2007, I started taking theatrical acting classes. And I didn't think I would like that side of acting, but I did. I loved it. And I learned how to apply theatrical acting to voiceover. Um, and so what I learned is that the best actors pretty much say yes to everything, pretty much. And they have a genuine love for what they're doing. There's very little resistance. Like, I know how it feels sometimes when I get an on-camera audition. I'm like, ugh. But I get a voiceover audition. I'm like, yeah, you gotta have the love. You gotta have the love for this type of work. Most of the actors, the vast majority of them, are similar and still asking, "Why am I here?" I'm guilty of that. I'd go into rooms and be like, "Why am I here?" You know what I mean? Like that insecurity. I can't tell you how many on-camera jobs I booked that weren't what I went in for. There was one movie. I auditioned, I think 3 different times for the same movie, 3 different roles, and they finally found me in a 4th role that I never even auditioned for. Oh, man, especially in voiceover, if you sound different, that's gold. You know, when guys come up to me and go, "I've been told I should be in voiceover," and they got a radio voice, it's like, no." But if somebody comes up to me and they got some, I'm like, "Oh, hello, let's talk." I get all the auditions in email, and I'll tell you, since the pandemic, as soon as I get them, I find a way to do them within an hour or 2. That's the new world of voiceovers, and I average about 100 auditions a month. And so whenever I get an audition, I'm just like, "All right." What I try to do is avoid the specs. So my pre-audition is, let's read what's on the actual page and try to ignore everything else. So I'll read it, and I've done this for so long that I can break it down pretty fast as I'm reading it. If I was new though, it would take me three reads or so to really get what's happening and what's on the page. But after years of doing it, you're just like, oh yeah, that's that, that's that, that's that. So I would read the script and do it and see what's going on, and then I'd say, okay, this is who I'm talking to. This is where I am. This is what the script is really about, and I try to distill it down to like one core emotion or one core feeling. And this is stuff the ad agency and the client have never even thought about, I would guess. Um, but it's like, oh, this spot is really about redemption. Oh, we're so sorry we fucked up. Here's the new way we're going to do business. Okay, it's not about being sincere and all that. It's about we need redemption. Okay, when in my life did I need redemption and when did I get it? Who needs to hear it? Okay, I got all that. Now I go to the specs and go, did I hit it? And if they match, okay, I'm on the same page. If they don't match, I miss something. Now I got to go back and see like my choices aren't quite fitting with what they say they want. Frequently in commercial voiceover work, every cook has put in their ingredients of what they want. And so it's, we want excited, but not too fast. We want happy, but not smiley. We want conversational, but we still got to get the retail message through. It's like, okay. So the specs in commercial voiceover are frequently worthless. Whereas in video games, the spec is, oh my God, the character background is given to you in like a full page. It's amazing. You get a novel on your character. And then the lines, there's 5 of them, and it's like, "Stop, don't go through the gate. Hey, what are you doing here?" I've got this whole background for 5 lines. Awesome. And commercials completely the opposite in some cases. There's spec, but it's meaningless. Um, and I noticed a lot of voiceover teachers too would start with the spec first, and I'm like, "Ooh," and that's dangerous because the spec is really on the page, right? So then it's about, once I've got all that, then it's about making sure my headspace is clear, making sure any fights with my wife are resolved. I've had my breakfast, my blood sugar's in order, like I'm all good, like, okay. I go into my booth. My procedure at this point is, try to read it straight through without judging yourself, which is very hard for me. Um, just ignore the first 3 takes, just spit them out, and as you're doing it, start making even deeper choices, make more layered choices. Okay, now who am I talking to? Ooh, I'm going to change it. I'm going to go here. I'm going to be there. I'm doing all of this while I'm just reading stuff. And hopefully, I either connect to the material. And if I don't, I've replaced it with something I can connect to. And then maybe layer on some stuff and play with it. And then again, go back to the technical specs. Oh, it needs to be in 60. Well, I better pick it up. Oh, it needs to be this format, or you need to slate here. Then just make all the technical adjustments, go into my audio program, edit it, ship it out ASAP, because that's the new COVID way. When I started this business, it was you had a few days to get an audition in. Now, oh my God, no, I get stuff from my New York agent in the morning, and it's due in about an hour from when I wake up. when I was a when I was a copywriter producer at J. Walter Thompson doing Ford stuff, we didn't have auditions. We were doing regional Ford advertising, and we got our voice talent. We'd use a lot of voice talent for that stuff. 4.99, off your F-150. Da, da, da. We'd have a wall. Every writer producer at Jay Walter, there were like four of us, would have just shelves full of demo tapes from voice talent, local, always local. And we knew who they were, and we'd pick the cassettes down. We'd pick four or five of them, cue them up to where we think they needed to be, play them for the creative director, and say, for this spot, here's who I'm thinking. And then he would say, go with her, go with him, da 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 da. And without any audition, nothing, they just show up, and you hope they sound like their demo. You hope they're in a good mood. And then um, agents, talent agents, started offering, "Hey, we'll record voice talent for your thing, and we won't." I think some were charging at the beginning, but then they stopped charging. So by the time I moved to Portland and was a voice talent at Q6, it was free, and they had a little room that they made into a voice booth by putting foam on the walls, and we'd record into a cassette deck. And so it was queued up at the last person, and you hit zero and record. If you didn't like it, you go back to zero, make sure you didn't hit the person after you, record, then they would messenger the tape out to the clients or FedEx it. And they were doing that for free. Well, then along came recordable CDs, and then of course MP3s and email. And once that happened, it opened up the floodgates. It was a positive for talent. Now you could be doing work out of market, right? Like I was doing work for this guy in Bend. Now all of a sudden, oh, I just landed a Denver agent. Oh, I just got a Seattle rep. So now you could work as a talent out of that, but that also means everybody else is submitting um, with MP3s and all that. 6 years ago, Monday morning, I get an audition for my LA voice agent. My agent said it's due end of day today, Monday. And so I turned it in a couple hours that afternoon. By Tuesday morning, I had a confirmed booking for the next day, Wednesday. So I booked it. Awesome. Those are very lucrative gigs. So I go to the session on Wednesday and I realize, oh my God, these are advertising cohorts, friends of advertising guys I know. Oh, we've got friends in common. All right. So the walls came down a little bit. And I just said, hey, I'm just curious. How many auditions did you get for this? What are we up to? Guy looks on his computer. 1,800? You got 1,800 auditions for this one little thing? He goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they posted on voicebank.net at the time. And I said, so you had 1,800 when you got me? He's like, no, we had a few hundred. We had like, I think 400, 600 when you came in. And we picked our three favorites, and you were one of them. And the client basically gave you a light thumbs up. Light thumbs up, okay. And you agreed, and here we are. And I said, okay, another question for you. You also list on the spec, I saw the voice bank posting. Oh, it says here you're still taking auditions till Friday. So the auditions were still open, right? So they released it on Monday. The My agent said, hurry up, get it in. We booked. People were still sending in auditions all week long. Now that's 6 years ago. Now everybody's getting set up at home. Everybody across the world thinks they can do voiceover work. Imagine the volume if you're casting something as generic as male or female, conversational. How many submissions you think you're going to get in the first 20 minutes? I guarantee it's hundreds, hundreds, if not in the thousands. They want to give everybody a fair shot, and they want to listen to them. It's physically impossible for a human being to get anywhere near 40 or 50 in one session and not get ear fatigue and not be able to tell the difference after that point. I'm about a 30 person tolerant. And I tested a voiceover class of mine with the students. They could handle about 13 and they got ear fatigue and they couldn't hear the difference after that. So when it's a big project, they'll have multiple people, video games in particular, they'll have multiple people filtering, and the pool just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. It's a real crapshoot. And if that bothers you, it may not be the industry for you. You just sort of have to roll with it, roll your eyes. And a lot of times too, you don't even know if your agent's going to submit you. So agents do not tell you. It's very rare that the agent says, got it, submitted. They usually just, if at best, will say, "Got your audition." And you're left wondering, "Well, I saw on the spec you're only allowed to submit your 6 best." Hmm. So, you better be turning in really great auditions to get them pushed forward. I'm lucky, I've confirmed with my agents that I get sent out a lot. But man, you just don't know if your audition's gonna make it to the end person in time. You don't know. I mean, it's just a big bag of who the fuck knows. And that's the voiceover world. But I'll say this, I as much as it seems so silly and arbitrary and time consuming, still beats the shit out of going into a cubicle job. I remember beating a guy, out for a role, that changed my career, because he had just gotten a parking ticket. So he was in no frame of mind to do the audition. So, yeah, just coming in neutral, ready to do your job and love what you do, that's really the secret sauce. And demos are becoming less and less of a thing because we audition for everything. So, and agents, the agent that said, "Oh, you're my Swiss Army knife. I love you." He's also been in front of SAG after meetings for voiceover and said, "Stop sending me demos. I want to hear your narration, a good minute of it." Like he didn't want demos. He wanted to see the whole story. He wanted to see if you could tell a story. And now with the internet and links, I mean, you don't even have to send attachments anymore. I send all my agents um, YouTube links to all my work, and that seems to work great for voiceover. You know, I just had a director that was working very fast, and knew exactly what he wanted. And it was not an easy session because it was a video game. No information was given to me ahead of time. Zero, zero. And I had to develop a character as he was talking. And he was talking so fast, I was like, wait, wait, I would try to ask a question like, where is he? Where is he? Just so I could get a sense of like projection and all that. And he had no time for my questions. And so I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna do what I can and get through it, and it was fine. And he's a good guy. Like I get it. Like he's under a time deadline. He knew exactly what he wanted, and that's how he works. And I know that in my loop group, um, the actors that have stayed with me can tolerate me being that way. And I realized, oh, I'm this guy. Sometimes I over explain and say nothing at the same time. I'm moving a million miles an hour, and I know exactly what I want. So I realized, oh, I'm this guy too. And there are two types of actors: the ones that get pissed and never show up again, and the ones that are just like, okay, I'm going to try to get what he's given me and then make it happen. Emails I get from people who barely know me or don't know me at all asking me how to get into voiceover because they have bills to pay. And I just want to write I don't write this back, but I probably should, and be like, find a job that they do, and be like, "Hey, I got some bills to pay. Can you teach me how to drywall?" Favorite audition was my one for Scream, the TV series. They had us audition the first scene from the first movie, which is the Drew Barrymore scene, and the guy calls on the phone. And I read it, and I'm like, oh, I recognize this scene. Crap. So I went outside on my deck, and I had a scotch and a cigar, and I read it one more time, and I go, you know what? I'm just gonna go in and have fun. I'm just gonna go in and bust this out one take. Just fuck it. Just fuck it. I'm going in. I'm doing it. So go upstairs into the booth, hit record. Hello, Sydney. Da 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 da. And then I shut it down. I go, okay, I'm gonna go to bed now, and I'll redo it in the morning. I get up in the morning and I play it back, and I go, fuck, that's actually pretty good. What have I got to lose? Shipped it off, booked the job, 2 seasons. Nina Gold casting. She was casting J. Edgar for uh spacing his name, Clint Eastwood. Wow, my brain is going. And I was expecting I don't know what I was expecting. It was just like, "Whoa, holy shit." So you go to the Warner Brothers lot and you get on like everybody else. There's like respect, your name's on the list, you get parking, like the whole thing. It's great. And I go to her office and it's me and one other guy. And I'm like, "Whoa, this is nice. This is chill, all right." And I had like a week before the appointment, so it's just chill and good and did my research and all that stuff. And I sit down and I look at the guy and I had that moment in the room where we're in the office for the role of balding agent. And I'm looking across the guy. I'm like, "Well, he's balding. He's got this gig, whatever. I don't know why I'm here." And I get in I get in like 10 minutes later. It's like a four-line job or something. It's nothing. And I just do it. And she was so nice. And she goes, "That was great. Give me a different one." And I gave her a different one. And she goes, "Thank you. Lovely. Bye." And then a few days later, my agent calls and said, "Clint Eastwood said he wants Mike Vaughn." Okay. But he did ask, "Can you be more balder?"